Hello and welcome to Politics Up on Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Okunshaki. To shed more light on what is currently going on in APC is the former Deputy Director of Strategic Communications for APC and the former National Publicity Secretary, Lanre-Isa Onilu, is joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you for joining us. Senator Abdullahi Adamu and Senator Yola Omishuri left their position yesterday as National Chairman and National Secretary of the APC, that's the All Progressive Congress. Now, some people believed that their resignation was bettered by certain circumstances in the party. Can you tell us what exactly led to their resignation?
Such actions won't happen if there are no circumstances. No matter what, it could be for personal reasons, it could be for some other reasons. In this case, the party, in its own wisdom, major stakeholders believe that the leadership of the party, as it was not poised for the best for the government that we just put in place and for ultimate delivery of the mandate that this government has. So you need a party that can serve, as a bulwark for the government to be able to achieve its purpose. So whatever other suggestions may be true or not, but the important thing is cumulatively, that leadership has not been responsive enough in a way that we can hope for it to back up, the kind of capacity that Asiwaju is bringing to governance. So you need the party also to be in that mode.
But popular opinion is that disgruntled members of NWC are most likely responsible for Senator Adamu's resignation due to the fact that he did not support President Tinubu.
Well, I don't think they are disgruntled, even if there are people within the NWC who felt that the chairman and the secretary were not providing the kind of leadership they wanted to be part of. And they also saw all the mistakes that have happened over the last 1 year or thereabout. So it is not just about the members of NWC. That's why you have this thing happened so seamlessly that you are not hearing any noise from anywhere. It's because there seems to be a sort of consensus beyond just the NWC.
You talked about the steps now. What are some of the things that the former party chairman did that could be seen as missteps?
Yeah, well, you see, the key thing here is that the governing party or the new government is resting on three structures, essentially. That is the executive arm that is headed by the president himself. And then you have the National Assembly, where we also have majority in both houses. And then you have the governing party, which is the political party and the vehicle that people used to get to their various positions, including the president himself. These three structures must be in sync and they must operate at the same level. As I said earlier today, somewhere, you don't drive a train wagon with a Toyota engine. So it won't work. So you need that kind of capacity. So it didn't display such capacity, and the party was not ready for the delivery of the mandate and the dividends of democracy that this party and the government and the president promised Nigerians. So, but you can also be specific about some of the missteps. For instance, immediately it came in, it failed to continue the process of reconciliation, which the party had embarked on before he became chairman. In fact, he was actually the chairman of that reconciliation committee. And you expected that when he became the national chairman, he would provide the atmosphere for reconciliation of all the differing parties across the structures of the party all over the country. That didn't happen. And as the chairman, you expect him not to be partisan within the party. He was supposed to be neutral, which somehow he didn't do. Sequel to the primary election, you have a national chairman of a party who became the chief sponsor of one of the candidates, even in a way that suggested some illegality. So that was not good for him as the national chairman. You can't get the confidence of your members. You cannot get trust. You can't build trust when you are clearly partisan. And in a couple of occasions, they had made some statements that suggested some judgment. You had Assa-Onilu in Abeokuta before the primary election when he expressed himself in terms of some of the misgivings he had about the process. And that was where he pronounced the now popular mantra in Miloka. And you have the national chairman who came out to say for him to have said whatever he said in Abeokuta, they would discipline him. So it's clear poor judgment, and it's also expressing some bias right from the beginning against Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And even when he emerged as the presidential candidate, you also saw the man, the president in Abeokuta, expressing, it's annoyance with the Naira redesign and the scarcity of fuel. And then you thought the national chairman of the party also will fall in line and rally around the voters to ensure that in spite of those two major issues, that they come out to vote and vote for our candidates. But rather than do that, he came out to say clearly that the party will discipline Assa-Onilu for that statement. You don't say that to your presidential candidate, except your intention is to make sure he does not win an election. So you couldn't be the national chairman, and at the same time you are working against your candidate, the candidate of your party, and in this case, the presidential candidate himself. So that was a poor judgment. And again, when they needed to choose the leadership of the National Assembly, it was supposed to be the responsibility of the party to spearhead the process of delivering the leadership, the kind of leadership that will work well with the government in place to ensure that the Nigerians have a better life. But rather, you saw a cold shoulder from the national chairman, and in some cases, you even saw actions that suggested they were doing something contrary to what the president wanted. And lastly, when the National Assembly chose the remaining leadership of the National Assembly, it came out publicly, instead of using the internal mechanism to express such, it came out publicly to say that whatever the National Assembly did was in vain. It was a veiled reference to the president, because he knew that would not have happened without the president's knowledge. So saying that publicly was actually trying to confront the president. So that level of imprudence, you don't want it from your national chairman. It cannot work well for the party. It will not assist the government in delivering on its promises. And so those are missteps. But the important thing is the global picture, as it appeared to every reasonable and objective member of the party, is that his conduct and that of the secretary have not made the party to be in tune with the reality of governance. The party, from all these missteps I have mentioned and other things that are not apparent to the public, it appeared that the chairman and the secretary were not in tune with the reality of the new government and the president, and they are not going to be able to provide the needed support for government to deliver on its promises. And that is a very important thing to do. You cannot have a situation where the party is working at cross purposes with the government it produced.
But in all of this, the senator helped the party win an election. That's the 2023 presidential election. So is letting him go not a betrayal from the party?
I don't know what you mean by helping the party win election. It's from Nasarawa, if I have not forgotten. He was a governor in Nasarawa for 2 terms, that's 8 years. He was a senator from Nasarawa. We lost Nasarawa. So if he would help the president to win election, the first place to win would have been his own constituency, which he lost. So we won this election on the strength of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's popularity and the belief majority of the voters had in him to deliver.
But can you say that because even Asiwaju lost Lagos State?
No. See, the difference in this case is that Asiwaju his influence goes beyond Lagos State. It cuts across the entire length and breadth of the country. I will tell you, I am from Kwara State. If not for Asiwaju, we wouldn't have won in Kwara State. So Asiwaju was the reason why we won in Kwara State, even though Asiwaju is not from Kwara State. So, but the national chairman had no role to play in whatever election we did in Kwara State. But we had to use Asiwaju to campaign in Kwara State for people to follow us. And that is similar to what happened in almost all the states, across the country. In fact, Asiwaju would have done better in Nasarawa if not for the national chairman.
Okay, so what is the implication of Senator Iyola's exit as the national secretary and its implication to Osun state politics?
Well, I am not from Osun State. I don't know what local politics is going on there. But what I do know is that the position was zoned to Osun State as at the last convention. The party hierarchy will sit down and determine whether that position will remain in Osun or not. But at the end of the day, there will be fair, representation of almost all part of Nigeria in the NWC. So we have a basic rule to that.
In all of this, what role is the president playing?
The president is the father of all. All we need to do is to ensure wherever we can, we provide a conducive supporting structure for the president. So he really does not have to get involved in all of this.
Now, Osita Chidoka, he has been clamoring for the Southeast to produce the next APC chairman. What do you have to say about this?
Well, you cannot plant cocoyam in Adamawa and you go and harvest in Southeast. I don't know if you heard that. No, Osita Chidoka planted his cocoyam in Adamawa and he wants to harvest it in the Southeast. This same man who is now clamoring for Southeast supported Atiku in the last election in Northern from Adamawa State. So if he was so concerned about the Southeast, he had the opportunity of demonstrating that in his own party during the last election. He didn't do that. So he's a busybody. He has no role to play in this issue whatsoever. And his opinion does not count, and it won't count.
So what are the factors that determine the emergence of the next APC chairman?
Well, that's left for the party hierarchy to determine.
Is there something about the position of the party chairmanship that we do not understand? I mean, the exit of Oshomole, his predecessor, and now Adamu have not been without crisis. Or does this go with the position?
It goes with the tenet of democracy, of party politics. Party politics is always about contestation of interests. And at a particular time, certain interests will prevail At another time, other interests would prevail. So during Oshomole, the regime of which I was part of I was the National Public Secretary during Oshomole's period. Whatever interest that prevailed that time ensured that our executive was dissolved before our tenure expired. We had the choice of protesting, of creating a faction, and insisting that we were in office, and then pursue the matter through the court up to Supreme Court, and for 2 years distract the government of APC that was in place. But we felt, because we have very strong internal mechanism to resolve our conflicts, we applied ourselves to that, and that didn't create any crisis further than that. So there will always be conflict in political parties. The absence of conflict means that party is dead, because that means nobody believes in that party to the extent of pushing interest, its own agenda. So there will always be counter, agenda, and people will always push interest, and there will be conflict. But the important thing is, does the party have very solid and reliable internal mechanism to resolve issues? We have demonstrated that over the time, just as we have done in this one. The chairman and the secretary, without any putting a gun to their head, resigned, themselves. And now we are going to have a smooth transition. In some other party, they had to go to court to get that done. When I want to assure the media that what has happened is just normal politics, not crisis, and they won't get as much content as they are expecting over this as they proceed.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Lanre-Isa Onilu, for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and as the former Deputy Director of Strategic Communications for the APC and the former National Publicity Secretary of the same party. And of course, he just shed more light on some of the things going on in APC. Now, to get more of our top stories, you can follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. On Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, our WhatsApp number is also displayed on your screen. My name is Damlola Ogunshaki. Have a lovely day.